long, long time ago, when long beards were all the rage, a rather insightful inventor put some big ideas center stage.
It's perfect, and I thought it really spoke to today, and rethinking cities in a more climate-friendly way and fighting climate change. So I thought would be a very like of the current thinking, and the sort of interrelatedness you would need to think about modern city.
It is a joy today to be speaking with Jim Capobianco, one of the directors of The Inventor. Jim, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me. I really do appreciate it.
Oh, and my pleasure, Steve. I'm glad to be here.
Honestly, first of all, I'm a sucker for claymation or this style of animation. This I find such beauty in it and such joy. How did The Inventor come to be?
Well, I made a short film that I finished in 2009 about Leonardo da Vinci. I wanted to keep exploring that character some more. This character I'd created that is a little bit more human, Da Vinci, kind of like a Chaplin-esque character. And I thought, well, I had done all this research about him, and I thought, well, maybe a feature would be interesting to explore with him, that a little bit more space to like explore a story with him. So that's kind of what started it, and then I had to figure out like what part of his life to write about and create, and so it just like one thing led to another to like jump in and do it about him.
It's a wonderful project. I loved it. It's so much fun,
Thank you.
I love that he was chosen as sort of the subject. And now I know you said you did the short, but why Leonardo da Vinci? Why start with him?
Well, I think with the short, it was just sort of trying to find a character that would fit this idea of him. And that's about Leonardo in flight. And I wanted to do a film about a guy with homemade wings who wanted to fly. And so I was trying to figure out a character. And then I thought, well, Leonardo da Vinci played around with this kind of thing. Maybe I'll do a film about him. I've never seen an animated film with Leonardo, so I'll make it. And then so I made that short, and then it led to this idea of, like I said, to like explore the character further, that I kind of create. And I made him to be more human in a way, like more approachable, uh, as an artist or inventor, or a scientist, like having big ideas and trying to convince other people of these ideas, and having a patron or a boss to answer to, dealing with apprentices and failing and then picking yourself up again. So I think these like human, real people aspects are what I wanted to explore with him, because I think we tend to with him. He's just sort of a guy in a book and up in an icon that is untouchable, as this guy who can do no wrong, or interested in all these like things in the world. So that's possible to be interested in. So and that curiosity he had, I really wanted to explore that too.
I love that curiosity aspect of it. This is a film where Da Vinci is continuously bumping up against those who either are not interested or are afraid of his ideas.
Hmm.
And one of the things there's a great conversation about people who do not see struggling to accept the ideas of the people who do see.
Yeah.
Why did you find that interesting to explore? And do you think that's true?
I do think that's true. And that quote it's actually a quote from Leonardo da Vinci, those lines. There's a lot of lines in the film that are quotes from Da Vinci. So yeah, I can't take complete credit for all the writing. He wrote some of it. But yeah, I do think that. I think it's really, um, it's we're surrounded by it today, where people who can't see, and we're up against that a lot, and especially as artists, scientists, creators, thinkers, where you're trying to think, where could this world go, and there's too many people who are stuck in the now, and they don't want to, they're afraid to go there, or they can't see the future. Even the problems we may have in the future, they don't see it or want to see it. So I think it's a great message for in a film, and it's really something I was trying to get across with the film.
If he wrote that, you got to watch out because he may come for a writer's credit, and make sure his name's.
He may, yeah, it's true.
You don't want to deal with that. You don't want to deal with
No,
that.
I don't. No.
I love the idea in the film is they're building is it the word the perfect city? I forget
The
the
ideal
ideal
city.
city. And they're talking about humans and nature in harmony.
Yeah.
I was wondering where that idea came from, and maybe that came from him, but certainly what we benefit from that sort of relationship in our urban
Yeah.
center.
So in the history, it's actually true to the history of that time he was in
Hmm.
France. He wanted to create a new city for the king in Romorantin, and now Romorantin actually, and they really did change the title or the name of the city in that time. Uh, he he had this idea, and it was actually an idea a lot of thinkers of the day and engineers and artists thought of as this concept of an ideal city based on kind of Greek thinking, because that's what the Renaissance was. They were looking back at the Greeks and this perfect, what they thought was like a perfect world. Um, so they wanted to recreate city engineering and then what they called the ideal city. And so Leonardo was definitely of that, and he wanted to do that in France and for the king. And so this is what he pursued while he was there, because I was looking for what's he going to do while he's in France. So I did the research, and this was perfect. And I thought it really spoke to today and rethinking cities in a more climate friendly way and fighting climate change. So I thought would be a very like of the current thinking and the sort of interrelatedness you would need to think about modern city. Um, and how it is one with nature in some ways, or not fighting nature. It's more trying to bring nature into the city. So um, that's kind of I thought it was a good place to go with stories. So.
Well, I absolutely. Well, I gotta ask since it was, did he really run into in from your research? Do you know if he ran into this sort of what's the word opposition for something like that?
Um, they allowed him to start doing it. They did start building it, supposedly. So I think I don't know how much opposition the king actually did present to him, but it does seem to me, I was really trying to present that king as a symbol of somebody who wanted, like, talking about seeing again, he wanted to see, but he was forced in a place where he had to still do his duties as a king, and especially under his mother, was, you know, felt that obligation or that pressure from his mother, who was just, wanted France, and she was thinking about the country, he's thinking about his position in that and in the world. And now and part of that is bringing Da Vinci there, where it's like, oh, I have the most famous guy in the world in my court. Don't I look good? But he also, there's a side of him that is interested in all these things. So he would be a person who would go, well, I don't know if this is a great idea, but you're the guy I brought here. I respect you. Okay, why don't you do it? Let's see what you got. But I'm not sure. And so that's really where I was trying to do it with character more than I don't with the history. There's not a lot written about that time in his life. It's like it's always the last chapter of every book, maybe one of the smaller chapters of every book on Da Vinci. And it took a lot of mining to try to find things to tell. So I really tried to stick close to the history in a lot of ways and facts and things. I really wanted to. I mean, I definitely had to manipulate stuff because it's a dramatization of it, and an animated film too. So it needed to have a dramatic story to it and also humorous and all these other things. So to find like what fit and what didn't and how to like stretch things and condense things and all that.
Well, and I'll be honest with you, like not knowing anything about really about Da Vinci, like it's actually fascinating to me to hear this because the film whether or not it's based historically in certain events or what have you, it works and it's fun and it's very funny and the animation's beautiful. And it's fascinating to me to see how much, work you put in to sort of bring some aspect of him to life from that time period
Yeah.
is really, really incredible.
Yeah, I mean, I was really trying to. I mean, I think it's from my research and work from when I worked at Pixar, we would research the hell out of everything. So,
Yeah.
um, and then to me, I'm like, oh, I'm telling a story about Leonardo da Vinci. I need to know about him to then filter all that through myself as the writer to the page and go, okay, I'm going to put all that. It's tough though, because a lot of that facts and stuff get burdensome because you want to put them in or you start to put them in, but then there's too much to explain. So then you're like, well, how do I tell this visually? Because it's a movie. So you can't have people like always giving you exposition all the time or it's going to get really boring. So you have to find active ways to tell this. So it was a challenge to figure out how to do that. But and to make it work. And I'm glad it does. So, um, but yeah, and I've gotten that a lot. I think a lot of people, even in France, they were like, I didn't even know Da Vinci moved to France. I'm like, really? Okay, wow. Um, so, yeah, that's been very rewarding to hear that people, it's also been a a criticism of the film from some critics where they've been like, it's too educational. What are they trying to teach us things? And like, what? And I was like, okay. I mean, some people get it, some people don't.
Well, and it's funny because you mentioned when you used to work Pixar, the storytelling, the character work feels very Pixarian in a good way.
Thanks.
It's not about facts and figures. There's a real, not to put too fine a point on it, there's a real soul to this character
Yeah.
as he looks for it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean that's my training. That's what I love to do. I mean, I think you have to tell a story through character. It's not about the plot. It's not about the sort of high concept idea of it. It's really told through character, and that's what we did on the best films at Pixar. Was really like, what? How does the story revolve around this character, and how do they affect the story? And so by doing that, you have to really understand your character, and by understanding your character, you bring more humanity to your character and a lot more dimension to that character, because that's what humans are. We have multi-dimensional aspects to us, hopefully. And um, and so to tell a good character, you need to have them feel relatable and stuff, and that's the way people are relatable is that you understand, oh, they're not just perfect. They're actually they may be pretend to be perfect, but there's actually all these underlying faults to them and things they're struggling with and problems they have to deal with that people then go, oh, I can kind of relate to that more. Even villains are that way. I mean, the best villains are not just evil, they actually have a lot more. You understand why they're doing what they're doing, stuff like that.
Well, and I know we're starting to run out of time, but I would love to talk to you about the villain or villains of this film
Okay. Yeah.
because there are I was wondering if in your mind there's a true villain as a character or villain of an idea, because even the villains in this character seem more afraid than anything else.
Mm,
It's hard to point and say, well, that guy's the bad guy, even though
right.
he's sort of one. I was wondering in your mind what or
Yeah.
who is the villain of the film?
So the way I look at like a villain, you think of a villain, but it's really antagonisms. Like who are the antagonists of the film? And basically, an antagonist is the character who is creating an obstacle or a force against the protagonist or the hero, the Leonardo da Vinci in this case. What they want to do, it's the force against their
Yeah.
goal, right? So then you have the Pope character in this. He can't, he's got his agenda and he can't see what Leonardo wants to do, or he fears it, like you said, that Leonardo would change things. And then that antagonism then handed off to Louise, the king's mom, and she kind of takes on that sort of fear of like, what will these ideas do to my son, and more importantly, the kingdom of France. So that, and like kind of our family unit, which is all one and the same to her. So like those things, and then Leonardo da Vinci himself is a sort of an antagonist to himself, where he's kind of doubting himself there, and um, feeling like he's going to fail again, and that he doesn't have enough time left in life to do what he wants to do. So I think all those elements, and again, I think it then makes it a richer film than if you just had like, a villainous character chasing him, or trying to kill him or something. So, um, to me, that makes it more universal and more, and not every film has to have a villain, but you do have to have antagonisms.
Absolutely. And that was one of the things I liked about this film is that even the villains, they're not mustache twirling evil people.
No.
They're people that are trying to figure things out and
Yeah,
strive to.
yeah.
I like that about it. I thought it was great.
Thank you.
Well, honestly, Jim, the film is wonderful. Thank you so much for the time. I really appreciate it, and I wish you the
Yeah,
best.
Steve. Great. I like your poster behind you there,
Thank
Lion
you.
King, and
Oh,
that
this
one
one.
too.
Oh, the
Boy, I
Lion
love
King. Oh,
Back to the
yeah, yeah.
Future.
That's right. I have Coco on the wall over there, actually.
You do. All right. Cool. Cool.
Thanks so
All
much.
right.
Have a great day.
Thanks, Steve.
Thanks.
You too.